Tensions between the United States and Iran have simmered for decades, a complex relationship marked by periods of cooperation and intense hostility. These tensions are rooted in historical grievances, ideological differences, and competing geopolitical interests in the Middle East. But recent events, including attacks on oil tankers and heightened rhetoric, have brought them dangerously close to open conflict, raising alarms across the globe. The potential for miscalculation and escalation is very real. Disputes over Iran's nuclear program, particularly its uranium enrichment activities, remain a major sticking point. U.S. sanctions, reimposed after the U.S. withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal, have crippled the Iranian economy, and military maneuvers in the Persian Gulf, conducted by both the U.S. and Iran, are adding fuel to the fire. These actions, combined with a growing military buildup in the region, have all escalated the situation to a critical point. The Strait of Hormuz, a vital oil choke point through which a significant percentage of the world's oil supply passes, is at the center of global concern, with nations worldwide watching the situation with bated breath. Any disruption there, whether through military action or sabotage, could send immediate and devastating shockwaves through the world economy. For Americans, the stakes are personal. This isn't just a foreign policy issue. War means higher gas prices at the pump, impacting household budgets across the country. It also brings economic uncertainty, creating financial stress for families and businesses alike. And it threatens jobs and savings, potentially jeopardizing the financial security of millions of Americans. Memories of past conflicts and their long-lasting consequences and their economic fallout are fresh in the minds of many, reminding us of the potential costs of military intervention. This is fueling real fears about the future, as people worry about the potential impact on their livelihoods and financial well-being. The global economy is deeply interconnected with supply chains and financial markets spanning across continents, and a conflict with Iran would disrupt markets everywhere, potentially triggering a global recession. Understanding these risks moves the conversation beyond politics and into the realm of practical economic consequences, to the real-world impact on Main Street, where small businesses and everyday Americans would bear the brunt of the economic fallout. The decisions made now by policymakers and leaders will have far-reaching consequences for everyday life across the country, impacting everything from the cost of groceries to the availability of jobs. That's why the economic stakes of this conflict are so high, and why it's crucial to understand the potential ramifications. Matter to all of us, regardless of our political affiliations or backgrounds. So, war with Iran would send immediate and powerful shockwaves through the U.S. economy, impacting everything from trade to consumer confidence. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that any major conflict has far-reaching consequences. It all starts with Wall Street. The financial markets are the first to react to geopolitical instability. Markets thrive on stability, predictability, and steady growth. But war brings the opposite, a climate of uncertainty and fear. This creates uncertainty that stalls investment and hiring as businesses become hesitant to commit to long-term projects. Businesses would delay expansion plans, putting a hold on new ventures and potential job creation, and consumers would cut back on spending, becoming more cautious and fearing what's next for the economy and their personal finances. This confidence shock can quickly drag the economy toward recession, as reduced spending and investment create a downward spiral. As oil prices spike, driven by supply disruptions and geopolitical tensions, and markets tumble, reflecting investor anxiety and the potential for economic disruption, the effects ripple out, leading to hiring freezes, wage stagnation across various sectors, and ultimately, falling demand for goods and services. The anxiety isn't just confined to Wall Street, it extends far beyond the financial elite. Main Street feels it too, as small businesses and local economies brace for impact. This is because financial security becomes fragile for everyday families, who are forced to reevaluate their budgets and spending habits. A conflict's economic impact is a cascade, starting from volatile markets and unpredictable investment climates, ultimately leading to lost jobs and shrinking paychecks for countless individuals. That's why both seasoned investors and ordinary families alike understandably dread the prospect of war and its potential to disrupt their lives. The price of conflict is paid not just in dollars and cents, in government spending and economic indicators, but also in the stability and security that underpins the very fabric of American life and communities. When the drums of war beat louder, everyone's future, both economically and socially, is inevitably placed at risk. The first and most immediate place Americans would feel the impact of a war with Iran is at the gas pump. The price of gasoline, already a significant expense for many, would likely surge dramatically. Iran's strategic control of the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway vital to global energy transport, means any conflict there could choke off a fifth of the world's oil supply almost overnight. This choke point is critical. Even the mere threat of war, before any actual shots are fired, would send oil prices soaring on global markets, rapidly translating to significantly higher gasoline costs nationwide, impacting every driver and household. Historically, for every $10 jump in the price of oil per barrel, gas prices at the pump rise about 25 cents per gallon. Therefore, a major conflict disrupting oil supplies could easily add $1 or even more to every fill-up, placing a heavy burden on consumers. This sudden increase in fuel costs hits families hard, squeezing their budgets and forcing difficult choices. It's especially challenging for those already struggling with tight budgets, leaving them with less money for other essential needs. Beyond individual consumers, businesses too would face significantly higher shipping and production costs due to increased fuel expenses. And inevitably, businesses would pass those increased costs on to consumers in the form of higher prices for goods and services. The result would be higher prices for almost everything, starting with groceries and extending to travel expenses like airline tickets, making it more expensive to move goods and people. An oil shock of this magnitude doesn't just raise the cost of fuel, it has a ripple effect throughout the entire economy. It slows down the whole economy, fueling inflation as prices rise across the board and ultimately cutting into economic growth and prosperity. A conflict in the Gulf, therefore, translates to higher costs for everyone, everywhere, impacting global trade and economic stability. The economic pain resulting from such a crisis would be swift, widespread, and deeply felt across the globe. The stock market reacts instantly to the threat of war, usually with sharp declines. Investors flee risky assets, erasing billions from retirement accounts and savings. Prolonged conflict means ongoing volatility, hurting not just the wealthy but anyone with a 401k or pension. Companies see profits fall, especially in travel, shipping, and any business tied to global supply chains. Credit tightens, borrowing gets harder, and uncertainty paralyzes corporate decision-making. The result is a market that struggles to recover, dragging down economic growth. War's financial chaos isn't just numbers on a screen, it's real money lost for millions of Americans. The specter of conflict can freeze the very activity needed for a healthy economy. War is expensive, fast. A conflict with Iran would force the US government to ramp up spending by hundreds of billions, adding to an already massive national debt. To pay for it, the government borrows more, raising concerns about long-term fiscal health. More debt means more of the budget goes to interest payments, leaving less for schools, infrastructure, and healthcare. Every dollar spent on war is a dollar not spent at home. The true cost isn't just in dollars, but in lost opportunities for progress. Future generations will bear the burden, facing higher taxes or fewer services. War's financial hangover can last decades, constraining growth and limiting America's ability to tackle future challenges. The economic legacy of conflict is a heavy one. War with Iran would likely drive up inflation, squeezing American households. Higher oil prices mean more expensive gas, but also pricier goods across the board, from food to electronics. Massive government spending on the war effort would pump more money into the economy, pushing prices even higher. The Federal Reserve would face a tough choice: raise interest rates to fight inflation, risking a recession, or let prices climb. Either way, families feel the pain. Paychecks don't go as far, and borrowing for homes or cars gets more expensive. Businesses pull back, hiring slows, and consumer confidence drops. The cost of living rises while economic growth stalls. War's inflationary shock is a double blow: higher prices and higher borrowing costs. The financial strain would be felt in every household. The economic fallout from a US-Iran war would be severe and long-lasting. Oil shocks, market turmoil, and ballooning debt would weaken the economy for years. Higher costs and lost confidence would slow growth and threaten financial security for millions. The human cost is always greatest, but the economic toll touches every American. These risks highlight the urgent need for diplomacy over conflict. Staying informed and demanding careful consideration of all costs is essential. The future of our economy and our well-being depends on wise choices now. The stakes couldn't be higher.